Two women, a sunny day in Los Angeles, and a simple stroll through a park that turned into a nightmare. Accused of a crime they didn't commit, humiliated in public and stripped of their dignity, all because of the color of their skin. But what happens when the truth comes out, and the accused aren't who anyone expected them to be? You're watching Horror Chill Stories, where real-life horrors collide with chilling truths. If you're captivated by stories that reveal the darkest sides of humanity, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's dive into a tale that will leave you questioning everything. Echo Park, one of Los Angeles's most iconic spots, is usually a place of peace and beauty. But for Dr. Maya Williams and Dr. Nicole Carter, what started as a casual lunch outing turned into a harrowing ordeal. As the two women passed by three elderly men sitting on a park bench, one of the men suddenly claimed his wallet was missing. Without hesitation, they accused Maya and Nicole of stealing it. Their shouts for help drew a crowd, and soon the police arrived. Despite their protests, the officers forced the women to endure a humiliating search. But when the truth was finally revealed, it wasn't just the men who were left embarrassed, it was an entire system of bias and assumptions exposed for all to see. It was a typical sunny afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind of day that draws locals and tourists alike to the vibrant Echo Park. Dr. Maya Williams and Dr. Nicole Carter, two accomplished black professionals in their early 30s, were taking a well-deserved break from their demanding careers. Dressed in casual attire, jeans and simple tops, they laughed and chatted as they strolled along the park's pathways, heading to a nearby cafe for lunch. Nearby, three elderly white men sat on a bench, exchanging stories and jokes. Among them was Mr. Henry Jenkins, a retired insurance salesman known for his outspoken demeanor. As Maya and Nicole walked past, Mr. Jenkins suddenly slapped his pocket and exclaimed, "My wallet. It's gone?" Panic spread among the group as they searched the bench and their immediate surroundings. Another man pointed toward Maya and Nicole, who were now several steps ahead. "It must have been them," he said, his voice rising. "They were the only ones who came near us." The accusation was loud enough to catch the attention of nearby parkgoers. Maya and Nicole stopped, turning around in confusion. "Excuse me?" Maya asked, her tone sharp with disbelief. Mr. Jenkins stood up, pointing a finger at them. "Don't play innocent. You walked by and now my wallet's gone. Give it back." Nicole, stunned, raised her hands in frustration. "We didn't take anything. We didn't even stop near you." But the men weren't listening. Their voices grew louder, drawing a small crowd of curious onlookers. Some people pulled out their phones, recording the escalating scene. Others whispered among themselves, casting skeptical glances at Maya and Nicole. The women's protests were drowned out by the men's accusations. "Call the police," one of the men shouted. "These two are thieves." Maya and Nicole exchanged a look, equal parts anger and disbelief. They could feel the weight of the crowd's judgment, the stares that seemed to strip them of their humanity. Nicole muttered under her breath, "This can't be happening." Within minutes, the Los Angeles Police Department arrived, responding to the frantic 911 call. Two officers approached, their expressions stern. One officer, a tall man with a clipped tone, immediately addressed Maya and Nicole. "We've received reports of a theft. Ladies, we're going to need to search you." "Are you serious?" Maya replied, her voice steady but laced with anger. "We didn't take anything. We haven't even been near them." The officer's tone hardened. "If you cooperate, this will go smoothly. If not, we'll have to escalate." Nicole stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Escalate? We didn't do anything. You're going to humiliate us based on what? Some baseless accusation?" But their protests fell on deaf ears. The officers gestured for the women to follow them to a nearby public restroom. The crowd, now larger, buzzed with speculation. Some people murmured in support of the women, but others shook their heads, already convinced of their guilt. As Maya and Nicole were led away, one bystander whispered, "Why would they do something so stupid in broad daylight?" Another replied, "They don't look like thieves, but you never know." Maya glanced over her shoulder at the crowd, her heart pounding. She could feel the sting of their judgment, the weight of being seen as guilty without evidence. Nicole clenched her fists, muttering, "This is unreal. Just unreal." But the worst was yet to come. The officers led Maya and Nicole toward a public restroom near the park's boathouse, their presence flanked by murmurs from the growing crowd. Phones were still recording, and the whispers of judgment followed them with every step. Inside the restroom, the lead officer addressed the women curtly. "We're going to conduct a search. If you cooperate, this will be over quickly." Maya's voice was sharp as she replied, "This is ridiculous. You're doing this in public in front of everyone based on what? Some random accusation. The officer's expression didn't waver. We're following protocol, ma'am. If you have nothing to hide, this shouldn't be a problem. Nicole took a step forward, her frustration boiling over. A problem? You're humiliating us for no reason. What about their proof? Did they even check if they actually lost the wallet? The officer ignored her, motioning for them to step apart. Please empty your pockets and place your belongings on the counter. Reluctantly, Maya and Nicole complied, pulling out their phones, keys, and a few personal items. The officers inspected them one by one, their expressions unreadable. When they found nothing, one officer spoke up. We're going to need to do a more thorough search. Nicole's voice cracked with disbelief. A thorough search? You mean a strip search? The officer nodded. It's standard procedure in cases like this. Maya shook her head, her voice trembling with anger. This is unbelievable. We're telling you, we didn't do anything. But the officers proceeded, directing the women to remove their jackets, shoes, and eventually more. The humiliation was unbearable. Stripped of their dignity, they stood there, exposed in more ways than one. As the search continued, outside the restroom, the atmosphere was electric with speculation. Some in the crowd were beginning to question the situation. They've been in there a long time, one woman said, frowning. What if they didn't do it? Another man shrugged. If they're innocent, why would the police search them like that? There must be something to it. Meanwhile, back at the bench, Mr. Jenkins was growing increasingly uneasy. One of his friends suggested, Are you sure you didn't leave it somewhere else? I know I had it, Jenkins snapped, but his voice lacked confidence. I checked before I sat down. The men decided to search the area again, expanding their search to Jenkins' car, parked nearby on Glendale Boulevard. As Jenkins opened the passenger door, his face went pale. There, sitting on the front seat, was his wallet. He grabbed it, his hands shaking, and turned to his friends. Oh no, he muttered. It's been here the whole time. What are you going to do? One of the men asked, but Jenkins didn't respond. His face was flushed with embarrassment as he walked back toward the restroom. Inside, the search had concluded. Maya and Nicole were finally allowed to dress, but the damage was done. Their faces were a mix of fury and humiliation. The lead officer stepped out to speak with Jenkins, who sheepishly held up the wallet. It was in my car, Jenkins admitted, his voice barely audible. The officer turned to the women, his expression unreadable. It seems there's been a misunderstanding, he said, his tone devoid of apology. Nicole's voice was sharp and unyielding. A misunderstanding? You humiliated us in front of all these people. You treated us like criminals. And for what? The officer stammered, We were just doing our job. Maya stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. No. You weren't. You didn't even question them. You just assumed we were guilty because of how we look. Outside, the crowd began to disperse, but the damage was done. The videos would live on, capturing the humiliation and the moment the truth came out. Maya and Nicole walked out of the restroom, their heads held high despite the pain. They didn't say a word to Jenkins or the officers as they passed. But the message was clear. They were not victims. They were survivors of an injustice that should never have happened. The atmosphere outside the restroom was thick with tension. Though some of the crowd had dispersed, many remained, their phones still recording. For Maya and Nicole, every second inside felt like an eternity. As the officers concluded their invasive search, they found nothing. No wallet. No evidence. Just two women, stripped of their dignity, standing in disbelief. Nicole broke the silence first, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and pain. You found nothing. Because there was nothing to find. Maya added, her tone sharper, We told you. We didn't take anything. But you didn't listen. You didn't even stop to think that we might be telling the truth. The lead officer avoided their eyes. We had to follow procedure, he said, his voice lacking conviction. Procedure? Nicole snapped. This wasn't procedure. This was profiling. You didn't even question those men. You just assumed we were guilty. The officers offered no response, but the tension was broken by the sudden arrival of Mr. Jenkins. His face was flushed and he held his wallet in his hands. I found it, he stammered. His voice was barely audible, but it was enough to silence the crowd. It was in my car. I must have left it there. The realization hit like a thunderclap. The crowd murmured in shock and disbelief, and some began to confront Jenkins. Are you serious? One bystander called out. You put them through all this and you had it the whole time? Jenkins avoided the crowd's gaze, mumbling, I thought they took it. I was sure. Nicole stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs. You were sure because we're black. That's the only reason. You didn't see us, you saw a stereotype. Jenkins stammered, I didn't mean for this to happen. But it did, Maya interjected. And you'll go home embarrassed, but we'll carry this with us forever? The crowd began to turn on Jenkins and the officers. Some shouted in support of Maya and Nicole, while others demanded accountability. A woman in the crowd called out, this is why we don't trust the police. You humiliated them for nothing? The officers tried to calm the situation, but the damage was done. The videos circulating online would show everything, the accusations, the humiliation, and the moment the truth came out. Maya and Nicole walked away from the scene, their heads held high despite the emotional toll. Nicole glanced at Maya and muttered, I can't believe this is our reality. Every time it's the same story. Maya nodded, her expression resolute. But this time the world will see it. They'll see what we go through. And maybe, just maybe, they'll understand. The scene at Echo Park quickly became a viral spectacle. As videos of the incident spread across social media, people began to share their outrage. The footage showed the women, calm and composed, enduring the humiliation of a strip search, while the three elderly men stood by, seemingly oblivious to the damage they had caused. But it wasn't just the men who were exposed. The officers, too, faced scrutiny for their unquestioning acceptance of the accusation and their treatment of Maya and Nicole. Public outrage grew as more people watched the video and read the accounts of what had happened. For Maya and Nicole, the immediate aftermath was a mix of relief and frustration. They had been vindicated, but the toll of the incident was far from over. The humiliation they'd endured was impossible to undo, and their names were now linked to the viral video that painted them as criminals, despite the complete lack of evidence. The twist came when their identities were revealed. Both women were highly respected doctors, professionals who had spent years earning their degrees and building their careers. Maya was an oncologist at a major hospital in Los Angeles, and Nicole was a renowned pediatric surgeon. They weren't just any women off the street, they were accomplished, respected professionals. As the news broke, the public reaction shifted. Many who had initially dismissed the women's claims of racial profiling now saw the incident in a new light. Maya and Nicole weren't just victims of an unjust system. They were educated, successful women who had been reduced to nothing more than suspects because of their race. In an interview that followed, Maya addressed the media with a calm yet powerful statement. We were treated like criminals because of the way we look, not because of anything we did. We are doctors, professionals who save lives every day. But today we were treated as if our accomplishments meant nothing. Nicole echoed her sentiments. This isn't just about us. This is about every black person who's ever been accused of something they didn't do. This is about the system that makes assumptions based on race. And this is about how much further we still have to go. The revelation of their identities shocked many, but it also sparked a larger conversation about race, prejudice, and the way black people are treated in America. The officers and the elderly men involved in the incident were now the subjects of public scorn, but the real issue was much bigger than a single incident. It was about the deeply ingrained racial biases that continue to shape society. Maya and Nicole became symbols of resilience, but their story also became a painful reminder of the work that still needed to be done. They didn't want to be martyrs, they wanted change. And they hoped their story would be a catalyst for that change. In the weeks that followed, the incident at Echo Park remained in the public eye. Maya and Nicole, though deeply affected by the events, continued their work as doctors, but their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just professionals in their field, they had become the faces of a larger conversation about racial profiling and systemic injustice. The media coverage was relentless. Interviews, news reports, and public debates focused on the incident. And while some people expressed support for Maya and Nicole, others continued to defend the actions of the police and the elderly men. The debate grew heated, but through it all, Maya and Nicole remained composed. In interviews, Maya spoke candidly about the emotional toll the event had taken. Every day we go into work to save lives. We give our all to help others. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that we were black women, and that alone was enough to make us suspects. Nicole, too, reflected on the experience. I never thought something like this could happen to me. But it did. And I know it's happening to so many others, every single day. It's not just about us, it's about the countless people who are treated this way and don't have a platform to speak out. The revelation of their professional identities had sparked an important dialogue, but it also illuminated a painful truth. No amount of education, success, or status could shield Black individuals from the biases that permeate society. Maya and Nicole weren't just doctors, they were human beings who had been reduced to suspects because of the color of their skin. As the public conversation evolved, Maya and Nicole became advocates for change. They used their platform to speak out against racial profiling, police misconduct, and the broader issues of racial injustice. They knew their story was just one of many, but they also knew that sharing it was a step toward making the world a better place. In the end, the incident at Echo Park became more than just a moment of personal humiliation. It became a call to action. Maya and Nicole's resilience in the face of adversity was a reminder that the fight for justice is ongoing, and that every voice, no matter how small, has the power to make a injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you for watching Horror Chill Stories. If you found this story powerful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more real-life tales that will make you think twice about the world we live in. Stay tuned for our next story, and remember, change begins with us.